when two developers were not disagreeing on how APIs and the edge conditions, was it the edge conditions, something like that, if we could go and look into it. So that's what I can remember.
And what did you learn? What is one major takeaway that you got from yesterday's session?
Or like, okay, as someone who is writing documentation,
Yep.
it's
Mm-hmm.
it's right to, okay, there will always be scenarios where people are going to have different opinions, and it's always good to like settle for the right thing as per the documentation, and also at the end of the day, focus on the users.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Good. Um, so basically, yesterday we were just trying to picture out the highlight of Module 4, and we had not finished it, so that is where we're going to majorly pick up from today. Navigate to my repositories. So we did not finish this module, and I would like us to finish it up, and then we get to the next module. Just an overview. Yesterday we covered research, interviews, and gathering technical content for product managers and software engineers. We saw how important technical communication is effective, especially uh, between product managers and software engineers. We saw the key contexts that might tend to differ based on how different scenarios might be brought up and how they're supposed to be broken down to ensure that they're simpler to explain to the actual audience that is around. So one major thing that we noted from this is that it's still very important to understand the background of your audience, rather of your users, whoever they are. Get to see the end goal and try and present whatever it is that you're trying to present from a technological angle, but make it as simple as possible to ensure that it's um, answering their questions from maybe a business perspective or based on whatever goal they have in mind. So I also looked at planning and preparing for interviews. We saw how important it is to um, at least um, go through different sets of interview preparations. How you're supposed to be clear on your goals, how you're supposed to know the domain that you're supposed to majorly focus on, how you're supposed to design smart questions, and even just the documentation setup. The brain teasers were also very helpful in getting us to think through the scenarios that are available and how we can try to answer them based on our own perspectives, but in the most simplest and easier way. So I'm not sure where we left yesterday. Stephen, where did you leave yesterday? I remember we had
I
covered.
think it was
Yes. Mm-hmm.
part four.
Part 4. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So before we get to part 4, we also covered how it's important to conduct interviews with stakeholders and SMEs. We saw how syncing backend engineers with maybe customer support with a goal to maybe extract some very accurate and actionable insights is very key. And also, we looked at some of the best practices on how to go about it, where you're supposed to build good rapport, at least be able to translate needs and even capture action items and possibly even confirm assumptions. In part four, this is now where I guess we were supposed to jump into part four. I think we had covered, but then we're supposed to jump into part five. So in part four, we looked at gathering and validating technical content, from syncing GitHub issues to integrating Swagger docs into Confluence, and getting to know the content you collect, how the content you're collecting must be validated, structured, and even version controlled. Also, we looked at various kinds of content gathering strategies, from breaking down systems where you have to use architectural diagrams or service maps, and how you can be able to also trace dependencies, which means you have to know what data is flowing in, where, and how often does it flow there, and also how you're supposed to link repositories and documentations, which means you have to create like a single source of truth. Also, there's the aspect of automating uh, various kinds of discoveries. So here you're supposed to use tools like Backstage or Postman for testing live endpoints. And a real life example here could be, at Netflix, we have engineers who tend to update internal documentation on edge services by linking Swagger specs directly into Markdown based repositories. So the brain teaser that we had was, two developers tend to disagree on how an API should behave under edge conditions. How do you proceed from there? And I recall I'd issued these out as an assignment, and I'd given also a scenario, or rather a perspective that we're supposed to think through. Um, I would still like to hear your thoughts on it. Now that we are getting to part five, I would like to kindly confirm if there's anyone who thought through the Brain Teaser 5, and will kindly like to share with us their perspective, or rather the approach, if at all, um, they were facing this kind of a challenge in the place of work. So, two developers disagree on how an API should behave under edge conditions. How do you proceed from that? So, I would like to hear it from any of us. How would you proceed from here? Robert, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Robert,
Yeah, yeah.
did you take your time to go through this brain teaser based on the scenario I would given you yesterday?
Yeah, actually, today we were integrating another API today, and this question came into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that at first we usually have the user requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Then from the user requirement, we do the analysis of the requirement, and that is where we come up with the business development. What do we usually call that? I've forgotten the name. So after analyzing the user requirement, at the end, we already know how the system should behave. So according to me, in a scenario where two developers disagree on how API should behave, number one is to go back to the user requirement.
Mm-hmm. We've lost you. Are you here?
The user impact and the technical evidence. Now, this is
Um, wait a minute, Robert. Is it my network or our network? Robert, how's your network over there? Um, I couldn't hear you clearly. I think there was some network issues, either on my end or on your end. I would like to confirm if anyone else is experiencing that. Kathy, um, how is my network? Can you hear me?
I think maybe Robert's network is a bit,
Okay.
yeah, there's some parts missing.
Yeah. I figured that out too. Robert, how's your network? Can you try and
Yes, I'm back. Can
okay.
everyone hear me? Okay, the thing is that I had to receive a call which interrupted my network.
Sorry.
Okay. What I was talking about is number one, we as developers, the two developers must go back to the user requirement and see at how the end goal of this system, like how the system will behave at the end. Now, once you identify the end result, in between we must have some nitty-gritties that might come up, but these nitty-gritties must be solved using the user requirement, because before we start developing the system, we have to design it. We have the flowchart, we have the diagrams and the use cases. Now, these APIs, at the end, we must have a clear picture of how it should work or behave. Now, if both developers disagree, it means they both don't know how, or they don't know how it's supposed to behave. So they must go back to the user requirement, to the design that they had, and see at the end of it, how is it supposed to do, or how is it supposed to behave. What are the if we are doing testing, if we test with this data, how is it supposed to behave? So if we have all the scenarios in which this API must behave, then we should not, the two developers should not have disagreed at first point, because we have all the scenarios on how the end product or how this API should behave. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. I love how you have been able to picture out everything from the user requirements, because ideally, rather at the core of it all, we are trying to understand, first of all, this specific product that is being built definitely is being built for the actual users. So we expect that at least some designs had already been created, and now if there's some conflict here, they have to eventually go back to the root of the problem and see what exactly is expected, and how are they supposed to think creatively to tailor everything to fit with what is going to be the end goal. So I think that is actually great, because even for the product manager, let's assume even if the API documentation had already existed, yes, the developers could go and consult the product managers, but still, if the some challenges occurring, then now they have to go back to the user requirements and now think through the design concepts. But now the challenge might be, what if it's a legacy system? But definitely, shouldn't be an issue, because at the core of it all, we're trying to understand, even these APIs, what challenge are they coming in to solve, and what are they coming in to improve, and is that improvement going to support the actual core goal, or rather vision, of the whole project. So getting to think through those details really helps you to know the best approach to take, and how you're supposed to also go about it. So I think that is a good perspective, Robert. Thank you. Unless someone had a different perspective. Is there anyone else who had thought through this, and maybe yeah.
Okay, Brandon. Also,
Yes.
this is something I once experienced, but it was not in terms of developers.
Okay.
So there was a project we were working with,
Okay.
and in that system,
Okay.
I was the one who started. I wrote all the user requirements. I documented this system. Now, when we started developing it, we developed at up to 80%. Then we took this system to the users for them to do a test. Yeah, to test.
Okay.
Now, in a certain meeting, they were discussing about buying credit. There is this functionality of search credit. You can search something, you first buy a credit, then you search. It was like a search engine. You search about something. So the more you search is the more your credit gets depleted. Now, these users, they didn't know, they like hawako wanajua like what this system is all about. So they were arguing, we are not supposed to buy credit, we just need to use money direct. And they were arguing between one of the developer and one of the user. Then I brought out the user requirement before we started coming up with this system. This is what we had agreed with the manager and the CEO. So after following that user requirement, that is the point they understood that it was supposed, at the beginning, we agreed that we are going to have the search credit and not using money direct. So once we have the user requirement at the first place, that will guide us throughout the how we build this system. Yeah.
Thank you. And when it comes to the user requirement, in as much as you involved the CEO and maybe the other stakeholders, did you guys have a survey? Did you guys do a survey with the actual users to get to understand whether they would like to have that feature there or not? For example, now getting to use or rather depleting the credits instead of using cash.
Yes. At first, after we came up with the user requirement and everything we documented, we presented it to the users. And in that panel, there were other tech guys in that room, and we went through all the requirement. Yes. So they saw everything, and whatever they wanted us to change, we included in that user requirement. Yeah.
Beautiful. Um, these challenges tend to pop up, especially when building a startup for the first time, and again, that's why building an MVP is very crucial, so that you can be able to put it out there and see what how your users are going to respond to it. In as much as the higher stakeholders have to be part of the planning, it's also very significant to really put the customers at the forefront, so that when you put the product out there for them to use, yeah, it might be solving the problem, yes, but maybe it could not be as effective as they might really want it to be, and that might push them a little bit away from the actual product, in as much as it's solving their problem. So that aspect of just trying to also connect with the customers, or rather the users, is very important. And now still looking at the business perspective of it, where you have to consult with the CEOs and maybe even the CFO, just to see how you can scale and improve the business aspect of the product. Because now when you look at it from the technical perspective, now it's those documentations that you've been able to create, from the user requirements to the design concepts, that are going to guide you in building the actual system with your engineers. And now let's assume the API bit becomes a challenge. So still, it's easy to reference through the documentation, and because that is what you guys had agreed on from day one, it's easier to reference through and work on it, through the aspect of modification, to see how every feature you're going to add is going to improve the actual system or the actual project. Yeah, so that was just an on that. I would like to also hear maybe someone else who thought through this. Maybe they have like a different perspective or rather different approach to how they will go about it. Um, Someone? Okay. I believe the silence means we are good. Thank you, Robert, for your perspective and just for the details that you shared with us based on this brain teaser. Let's get to part four, collaborating with cross-functional teams. Um, One thing that you'll notice that collaboration is where PMs and engineers do thrive. So clear and consistent documentation tends to align very well with teams, and this helps to avoid ambiguity. So let's look at some of the collaboration tips. One is it's very important to attend team rituals. These are basically grooming sessions, retros, and even sprint planning to help you be at par with everyone else in the team, so that you get to discuss the details of what is expected of you, or possibly to ask the right questions so that when you get to the development beat, you don't get confused. Also, we have you're supposed to share drafts early. So when talk about sharing drafts early, it means that you have to treat documentation as a living and evolving artifact. So how you get to do this matters a lot. And then also we're looking at you getting to review workflows. So you're supposed to use review workflows too. You're supposed to assign documentation reviews in GitHub or Google Docs so that they can be reviewed there. Then it's always good to encourage the writing culture. Um, Writing is very important because it helps you in getting to think through something in a more detailed way. And just the art of writing helps to keep the brain active actually. So that culture among team members helps in keeping the documentation fresh every single time. But be careful enough not to lose the context, because too much of it can really mess things up. Um, there's some documentations that might you don't necessarily have to change, but now there are some that when you're working on, especially the technical documentations, they tend to you can tend to refresh them. I mean, fresh them up every single time. Maybe when you add a different feature, you can go and add that on the documentation. Things to do with user requirements, maybe design concepts. When you get to the development bit, it's advisable not to really touch on them unless there's a specific thing you want to add, and just be careful not to lose the context when looking at the bigger picture of the whole design. So a real life example here is that at Amazon, engineers maintain the RFC style documents in a shared repo where PMs, tech leads, and even architects comment the inline before sign off. So these are engineers at Amazon. They're trying to maintain RFC style documents in a shared repo where PMs, tech leads, and architects comment inline before sign off. Then we have brain teaser 6. Under brain teaser 6, the teaser is what's the best way to ensure that engineering documentation reflects changes after every release? What's the best way to ensure that engineering documentation reflects changes after every release? So picture out a team of engineers or developers building a specific product, maybe in agri-tech or health tech, and they really have laid out tech documentation, but then because of the changes they have to add to the product, they also have to update the documentation. So how do you ensure that the engineering documentation reflects these changes after every release? I would like to hear this from Stephanie. Stephanie, how would you ensure that the engineering documentation reflects changes after every release?
So, key thing is to collaborate with developers, the engineering team, just to ensure that they update the document. As we had mentioned previously, the RFC document is a living document. So every change that is supposed to be done should be highlighted, and possibly through version history, we can see the different changes that are done on the documentation.
Thank you. Thank you. So the key thing here is collaboration, right? Stephanie?
Yes, collaboration.
Collaboration. Okay. Thank you. Kathy, what do you think?
I also agree with Stephanie on the RFC lifestyle. If the version history is going to be updated, I think that could be the right way.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get to part 6. So, part 6, we're going to look at tools and technologies for gathering technical content, which is also very important in your day-to-day job or assignment out there. Modern product and engineering workflows rely heavily on integrated tool chains. So, knowing what tool to use and when can boost collaboration and reduce documentation depth. Some of the common tools here are majorly for, or rather tailored for specific kinds of things. For research, we're looking at product board, mix panel, and even Google Trends. That's just for research purposes, right? For documentation, we're looking at Confluence, Notion, and HackMD. We will look at this from a more practical perspective in the next module. That's why we are headed to, so no pressure. For source control, we are looking at GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Then for meetings, we're looking at OutAI, for Loom. I haven't added Google Meet. I haven't added Meet, Zoom. You can name them when it comes to meetings, and just the ones that help you to record meetings. So for real life example, sorry, you realize that a team at Figma uses Notion for requirements, GitHub for implementation notes, and Loom videos for async design reviews, all centralized in a shared knowledge hub. So you can have one common knowledge hub with all these types of tools doing different kinds of functionalities. So your work is to mandate them to help you, solve specific kinds of problems based on how you like that to be. Brain teaser. Brain teaser. How can you use GitHub Actions to automate documentation generation from code comments? How can you use GitHub Actions to automate documentation generation from code comments? Robert, have you ever interacted with GitHub Actions in automation or just automate documentation?
Sorry, come up again.
Oh, sorry. Asking, have you ever used GitHub Actions to automate documentation generation from any code,
No,
or just have you ever used GitHub Actions?
no, not yet.
Okay. And let's see. Stephanie, what about you?
No, I'm actually hearing it for the first time today.
Okay. Okay. So that brain teaser means I have to help you out. Kathy, you too?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, super. So let's start by understanding what GitHub Actions is, and then we see how we can do this. Just a second. Someone is buzzing my phone here like crazy. So GitHub Actions. What exactly is GitHub Actions? Let's see if we can look it up here. So for documentation, here we go. So you can be able to use this to automate, customize, and execute software development workflows right in your repository with GitHub Actions. So you can discover, create, and share actions to perform any job you'd like, including CI/CD, and even combine actions in a completely customized workflow. So let's see how you can be able to do this. So you can start here, writing workflows. GitHub Actions can automate tasks without throughout the software development life cycle. Let's just click on it. We'll look into the others as we continue. So this is just the documentation to guide you. So I wanted to see now how we can do that from a practical perspective. So using workflow templates. So GitHub provides workflow templates for a variety of languages and tooling. Choosing and using a workflow template. So on GitHub, navigate to the main page of the repository. Under your repository name, click on Actions. So I want us to basically just do that by following the documentation and see whether we are moving well. Let me click on this repository, the engineering one here, or maybe the tech website. I don't know. So I'm trying to export the. So on GitHub, navigate to the main page of the repository. Under your repository name, click Actions. So these are we have like code, issues, pull requests, discussions, then actions. So let's see. Here we go. So get started with GitHub Actions. This is it. Build, test, and deploy your code. Make code reviews, branch management, and issue trading work the way you want. Select a workflow to get started. Skip this and set up a workflow yourself. So before we do that, let's try and say suggest it for this repository. Start with a file name with the minimum necessary structure, then configure that here. You can use all this just for deployment. For security, you can use all this. Then for CI, I mean continuous integrations, then automation, pages. Yeah, let's try and see whether we can set up a workflow ourselves. So I can see it's loading here. So this is how we can go about it. So let's go back to documentation. So under repository name, click Actions. Then if you already have a workflow in your repository, click New Workflow. That's if we already have a workflow in our repository. Then choose a workflow page, which shows a selection of recommended workflow templates. Find the workflow template that you want to use. Then click Configure to help you find the workflow template that you want. You can search for keywords or filter by category. So let's go back to where we were. I think I had to suggest it for this repository configure. So let's try and click the configure bit. I just hope I won't lose my work. Okay, so I've just clicked on configure, and this is so far what we have. Let's continue the documentation. So if you already have a workflow in your repository, click new workflow. Then choose a workflow page which shows a selection of recommended workflow templates. Find the workflow template that you want to use, then click configure. To help you find the workflow template that you want, you can search for keywords or filter by category. I think I just went through with clicking the configuration button without necessarily choosing the workflow to workflow template to go with. But I think it will be ideal if you get to choose that. So if the workflow template contains comments detailing additional setup steps, follow these steps. These are guides to accompany many of the workflow templates for building and testing projects. For more information, see building and testing your code. Some workflow templates use secrets, for example, if the workflow template is a secret, store the value described in the secret name of the secret in your repository. Okay, so let's continue here. Let's try and look at this preview. So this is the basic workflow to help us get started with this. And I can see this documentation. Let me see. So I think there's a lot of things here. Okay, I think we'll have to explore this later, but let me say something. Configuring workflows. This is exactly what I was looking for. Okay, I think there's a lot around this that requires some exploration, just to help you like see and maybe understand a few things here. Wouldn't wish to spend a lot of time on it. I will urge you all to try and look into it maybe later in your free time, or maybe we can explore it later once we have like good time. Yeah, but I was just trying to see how we can explore that easily. Yeah. So how can you use GitHub Actions to automate documentation generation from code comments? That's a whole other thing out there. I think just trying to look at it from a more practical perspective would be great. Yeah. I'm not sure if we are good. Are we together? First of all, I don't want to lose anyone. Are we together? Robert, are we here? Hi, Robert. Stephanie, how are you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I thought I'd lost you all. So I think when it comes to GitHub Actions, based on what I was trying to look at from a more practical perspective, it will be in order if we try to explore it on our own. But I was just trying to show you a few things based on the documentation that we have. Yeah. So as we continue, you realize that product managers and software engineers are always the first line of defense against poor communication. I think we find this a lot. So by getting to own the process of research, interviews, and even technical content gathering, it's easier to improve product quality and also be able to accelerate the decision making and at least empower other teams. So when content is clear and current, onboarding new developers, releasing features, or even conducting audits becomes far more smoother. So these techniques are not just for writers; they are leadership tools for today's product builders. Um, the last brain teaser on this module. Uh, Imagine you're launching a major feature with minimal documentation in place. How do you structure a recovery plan? You're launching a major feature with minimal documentation in place. How do you structure a recovery plan? Someone, how do you get to structure a recovery plan if you're launching a major feature with minimal documentation in place? How would you go about this, someone? Stephanie, how would you go about this?
The bid for coming up with a recovery, that's a tongue twister, a recovery plan.
Yeah.
I need to think about it. Give me some time.
Okay. Okay. Stephen, you've been in and out. I hope you're settled now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about you. I don't know if it's your internet or your device. I hope you're good.
The interview. I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you. Would you try and give this a shot?
Okay. So a recovery plan. I will try to identify the missing parts in the documentation, and then I can use the feedback from the users to improve the documentation of the feature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also seek help from other engineers to help me document the feature.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Kathy?
I was also thinking about filling in the missing parts because at that point in time, the document it has some few things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you could add stuff because a major feature, yeah. That's what I was thinking about. Filling in what could have been left out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Filling in what could have been left out. That's what you're trying to share with us.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Robert, what about you? How would you go about this?
First thing,
Mm-hmm.
the same way, I think it was Stephen who said that the first thing to do is to identify the missing part. That is the first thing. We identify the missing part or the missing section in which it was not documented. Then number two is to focus on the critical areas in which it has not been documented. For instance, we can start with the configuration and the setup of that system. Is it documented? If not documented, let's start from there. We document how we do the configuration and the setup. Then we check the most critical part. That is the way I could have handled it. First is to identify the missing part. Then second is to check the critical areas in which it should be documented. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Um, Stephanie, have you thought through it?
Not yet. I don't have an answer for it.
Okay. So I think we can leave it there. We can still think through it as we continue. Let's head to module 6.
I have a question for the recovery plan. Is it the disaster recovery plan? If things don't go as planned?
Okay. Yeah, we can look at it from that perspective. If things don't go as expected, so most of the time now in this scenario we're trying to picture out a feature being implemented for the first time with minimal documentation, which means there's no guidance through how these features are going to be implemented. So the future projection of the impact that feature is going to have in our product is more determined by our user requirements, just that. But the technical bit of it is not clear enough. So that recovery plan, that structured recovery plan, is to first of all help us see whether we can be able to sort out the issues that might erupt, just in case things don't go as expected, and at the same time help us to improve our documentation so that it stands as the standard fit. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, for this particular case, for the feature, depends also the project, because there are some features that we can switch on and off. So that's one of the instances that you can highlight in the recovery plan. So in case that this particular feature does not work as expected, it can be turned off. The other one is reverting to the previous release that was done before this feature was implemented. And then you can describe the various steps that will be taken for this particular revert to be done.
Sounds good. So let's assume that there's no need to turn on and off the feature. So let's just try and picture it out as if it's the most important feature here, but then we need to still come up with that recovery plan just in case things don't go as expected. Will we still follow through the same thought process?
Yeah. I'll still go through the same thought process because it's it's more of referencing. In the case that this particular feature does not occur, it's getting to understand what are the key features that this particular feature has, and which point does it affect the system. So you get to highlight on a high level what are the key things that will be affected when this feature is implemented. So I believe this should trickle down now to the recovery plan.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Of the dependency.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Sounds like a plan. Great. Any question? Especially on this brain teaser and module, and this module that we've already covered. Is there any question here? Or anything that we have missed out on that we need to maybe go back to? Anyone? Okay. I believe the silence means we are all moving well. Super. Let's proceed to module 6. Okay, great. So module 6 is a little bit more interesting. Something is telling me these are supposed to be around module 3 or 2 up there, but there's no pressure. We're doing well. So technical documentation tools for the tech industry. When I say the tech industry, I mean even technical writers, software engineers, product managers, project managers. You can name them. As long as it's in tech, I believe it cuts across almost all these industries. So, welcome to this guide to high-level tools for technical documentation. This is crafted and expanded for software engineers, product managers, project managers, and even technical writers. So this section dives deep into industry standard tools that are used daily at companies like Google, Airbnb, Stripe, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon, and even Meta. So each tool here includes detailed role specific use cases. For example, when it comes to software engineers, we're trying to picture out how these tools helps them to streamline code documentations, help them to integrate CI/CD pipelines, and even embed live examples. For product managers, help them, or these tools help them to align stakeholders, map feature roadmaps, embed metrics dashboards. For project managers, it helps them to organize sprints, to manage deliverables, to track documentation milestones. And for technical writers, it helps them to craft style, consistent guides, to manage versioning and even export formats. So we'll also look at key features and capabilities of these tools, some of the real-world impact metrics, some sample configuration and code snippets, and a few test questions here and there. Also, we'll try to look at some of the external links that have been verified um, on the day of this documentation. Let's look at this aspect. So one thing about the technical documentation, it is the heartbeat of technology organizations. Today, when we innovate a new product at tech, it's very important for us to be able to document something, document it in detail, so that in future, just in case we're looking forward to innovate something there, it has to come out clearly based on what we had built up as our foundation. So technical documentation is the heartbeat of technology organizations, and well-maintained docs tend to help accelerate onboarding. Actually, I see this a lot when onboarding new engineers. So when you have a well-maintained documentation, it helps a lot in accelerating onboarding. It reduces support costs and fosters cross-functional collaboration. So as products tend to scale, documentation must also evolve, shifting from simple markdown files to interactive portals with live code examples, search, and even analytics. So in this guide, you'll explore one, collaborative content platforms like Notion and Confluence. I believe most of us are currently using Notion. I'm not so sure about Confluence. You'll also be able to use static site generators like Dockersaurus and Sphinx. Also, you'll be able to use version control and collaboration hubs like GitHub and GitLab. Also, you'll be able to work with different kinds of tools, powerhouse tools like these are API documentation powerhouse tools like Swagger, OpenAPI, and even README. Also, we look at diagramming and visualization wizards like Lucidchats and Marmot. Also, we look at various types of interactive documentation innovators like Jupyter Notebooks and Storybook. We'll see how we can be able to host and deploy on various kinds of platforms like GitHub Pages, Vercel, or even Netlify, and other more. So we'll go through the conclusion bit, the contributing bit, and also maybe some licenses in there. So each section here provides 4 role-specific workflows, features, sample codes, and even impact metrics to ensure that there's a comprehensive coverage. So let's look at collaborative content platforms. And this is very important because that aspect of collaboration helps us to see how effective it is to bring people together and improve a specific documentation based on an existing product being built. So Notion is an all-in-one workspace combining notes, wikis, databases, and even project management. So it's employed at Slack, Figma, HubSpot, and even Dropbox. And I'm glad that most of us are using it. So some of the key features of Notion, it has the block-based editor and also the drag and drop option. There's the custom bases in custom databases where you can check through tables, boards, and calendars. Let me see if I can explore mine here. Okay. I hope this is it. Here we go. I'm trying to see or have a picture out a few samples here. Okay. Let me get away from this. But yes, no pressure. Saving this was your workers reviewing it, don't worry. Okay. So there's just a lot about Notion that is very important, and I'm trying to spot if we can get like a free sample down here. I don't know if we can get one with almost every sort of guide. Yeah, It's taking time to load. So with Notion, you can do as many things as you want. It can act as your database. It can help you to, you know, do as many things as you like to explore. All you have to do is just get to understand its capabilities, and the only way you can be able to do that is by trying out stuff. We have some templates that we can explore here. Like this one here. Let me see if we can view that. Okay, it's being added on my so this is a job application tracker, and it has all sorts of things. So based on this user, he's trying to apply for jobs in various companies with various positions. So it indicates the status, the application date, the salary, and even next actions, you know. And he has also been able to include the websites, contacts, and even reference links here. So this is a very good example of how Notion is helpful, and other more things. So this is more of a database for this guy, this person who is trying to apply for jobs. So he's using Notion to help him track the jobs that he is applying to, and seeing how he can be able to effectively track every application that he's onto. Yeah, and other more things. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, and I've lost my, yeah, super. So just based on that, Notion has all sorts of features, and I think the ones we've been able to look at, though we've not practically done anything, most of them you can do them on your free time just to explore and see how effective Notion is. So the features here is we have like the block-based editor, where we have like a drag and drop. Also, we have custom databases like tables, boards, calendars, and other things. Also, we do have the real-time collaboration, comments, and mentions. Again, we have Markdown imports and exports. We have integrations like GitHub, Jira, and Slack. Then we have the built-in AI assistant. So these key features are very significant. Let's look at some of these use cases, especially amongst software engineers, project managers, and technical writers. So software engineers can use Notion for API specifications, which means they can use Notion to define endpoints in structured databases, and also be able to link parameters to these GitHub issues, and also embed JSON payloads via code blocks. Then we have the architectural inventory. So it's easier to track microservices, container images, and even Terraform modules in a single database. Again, we have incident postmortems, where it's easier to like do a live collaboration in the root cause analysis pages, assign action items directly. Also, we're looking at CI/CD documentation, where you can document pipeline stages with toggles, and also be able to embed status badges from the GitHub actions. That is just in regards to software engineers. For product managers, it's a little bit different because they get to use Notion, although they can get to use Notion to do what you call PRD development. So when I talk about PRD development, I mean combining user stories, acceptance criteria, and timelines in a unified document with links to Jira, Epics, and other more. Then we do have like roadmaps. So when it comes to roadmaps, you're looking at visualizing these feature timelines in calendar or Gantt-like views, and even trying to export the snapshots for stakeholder meetings. Then we have user research. So when it comes to user research, we're looking at how you can be able to store interview notes as a database, tag by persona, and also be able to synthesize these findings via an AI summary. Also, when we are looking at metrics dashboard, so under metrics dashboard, you're trying to see how can we be able to, rather, can you be able to embed charts from Looker or Google Sheets for real-time progress, right? How can you be able to embed charts from Looker or Google Sheets for real-time progress? Then we have project managers. For project managers, they tend to, although like, they can be able to use documentation sprints, Notion for doing documentation sprints, and they can also be able to include Kanban boards to assign doc tasks, set due dates, track blockages, and also meeting notes where they can be able to create templates capturing attendees, decisions, follow-ups, auto-generation action item lists. For resource planning, where they get to build a database of contributors and estimate effort for documentation deliverables. Then we have like risk logs, where they get to maintain a table of doc related risks, mitigation honors, and status. For technical writers, we are looking at style guide repository where they can be able to centralize writing standards, use templates for API guides, user manuals, and even release notes. For versioned content, here they can be able to duplicate pages per major release and also be able to annotate changes via comments. For export workflows, we're looking at how they can be able to export selected pages as Markdown or PDF and be able to integrate with GitHub for automated merges. For glossary management, we're looking at how they can be able to maintain term definitions in a database and also auto-reference across pages, auto-reference all this across pages. Real-world impact, uh, there's two. There's HubSpot and Dropbox. HubSpot has seen a 35% reduction in new hire ramp time by consolidating all onboarding documentations on Notion. Dropbox also reduced cross-team email volume by 20% via centralized incident dashboard. So Notion acts as this one hub where you can explore various kinds of tools and be able to, as a central hub where you can explore various kinds of tools and be able to use them to connect and support a whole different set of teams. We can have software engineers, product managers, project managers, and even technical writers in the same spot in the same hub. But then through Notion, it's easier to connect with all of them, because that is where the email is there, the calendar is there, all sorts of things are there. So it's easier to really use it as one major hub spot. So, sample workflow, create project workspace and define database schemas, then integrate GitHub to auto-link issues IDs, then draft specs using code blocks and toggles, and assign reviewers and due dates via at mentions, then export the final spec to Markdown for repo integration. That is just a sample workflow, no pressure on that. Let's look at some of the test questions here. How can an engineer use Notion databases to maintain API version control? How can an engineer use Notion databases to maintain API version control? before I get to this question, how many people have interacted with Notion? I saw Stephanie's work delivered on Notion, Steven's work delivered on Notion, so there are an exemption here. Robert, Kathy, have you guys interacted with Notion?
For me, I've interacted with it only once.
Only once. Okay.
Yeah, I was just creating some training notes for solar students, and I used Notion. Yeah,
Okay. Sounds good. Um, it was just a one-time thing.
one time. Then I haven't used it again.
Okay. Steven, what about you?
Also on
Also once.
the assignment.
Yeah. Oh, super. So I saw the assignment too. Okay. Oh yeah, I meant Kathy. Sorry, Kathy. Yeah, you used Notion too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that it has databases.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot around it. Um, that definitely you'll be able to explore when you have like specific kind of tasks or assignments that you are required to use on Notion. Stephanie, how often have you been using Notion?
That's a very, very few times because mainly I use Confluence.
Oh, you use Confluence as opposed to Notion.
Yeah.
Awesome. But how many times have you used Notion?
Can count maybe less than 10 times.
Oh, okay. Less than
Yeah.
10 times. Okay. Cool. So that means this question that I'm here to ask, I won't really ask it, but it's okay, no pressure, because it's more practical, and I wanted people who have more of a visualized overview of it. So I'll have to pass the first question. The second question: what steps enable embedding a GitHub Actions badge in Notion? I'll pass that too. Describe how a PM might use Notion's calendar view for release planning. Um, I can pass it to you, unless someone would like to try that. Describe how a PM might use Notion's calendar view for release planning. So I think this one is supposed to be from a more practical perspective, more of like someone doing a presentation. But I would really like to pass on those three questions and get to Confluence, unless someone has a question on them. Is there anyone who has like a question on those three? Or someone would like to try them out? Beautiful. Let's get to Confluence. So just an overview bit of Confluence. Confluence is Atlassian's enterprise wiki integrated with Jira. It's used at Spotify, LinkedIn, Amazon, and even Atlassian itself. Some of the key features of Confluence is the hierarchical page structure and also the macros for dynamic content like Jira, Code, and charts. We also do have like the granular page and space permissions, pre-built templates and blueprints, markdown import and export. Some of the use cases amongst engineers, software engineers, one, we have service architecture, where you can be able to create parent or child pages for service domains, which means you can be able to embed the draw.io and UML diagrams via macro. So it's easier for an engineer to use Confluence to just embed their own architectural structures there. And also for API change logs, it's easier to do what you call an auto generate change log pages, pulling from this Jira release tags. Also, we're looking at code snippet libraries where it's easier to store reusable Bash and Python scripts in snippet macros. Also, we're looking at DevOps runbooks where you can try to, or rather, it's easier to do what we call interactive runbooks with collapsible sections, status macros for pipelines. Um, these are just some of the use cases among software engineers, and most of them are definitely much more practical. So it looks a little bit more interesting. How you can be able to do your presentations, or rather, be able to store your work on Confluence in a more practical and technical way, and still be able to collaborate with other people, you know, or other engineers on the documentation. When it comes to product managers, so for those who don't know Confluence, this is Confluence here. Okay, I was just trying to sign up for the first time, and they do have a lot of. I'll skip that. So this is Confluence for me. I've just signed in as a new user here. I'll be so happy to see what Stephanie has for us in regards to the structure of Confluence and how she has been working with it. But mine is pretty blank, you know. Yeah, this is mine. It's very blank actually. Too blank. It's loading. Okay. So later we will try to see whether we can compare Confluence and Notion, and see which one is the best. Yeah, to go with. Stephanie, is Confluence free, or they have a tier?
They have it here.
Ah, super. I can see it up there. No pressure. Let's proceed. I just want to show you my Confluence. How it's empty. I just created an account like a minute ago, an hour ago, I guess. So for product managers, we have okay, for product managers. I thought product managers. We're looking at feature specifications, where you can be able to embed live Jira roadmaps, and also be able to gather stakeholder comments inline. Also, we're looking at OKR tracking. This is where you get to use status macros and Jira gadgets to display objective progress. Then, when it comes to customer feedback, you can be able to embed Confluence pages into customer portals for soliciting structured feedback. Then, also when it comes to competitive analysis, it's easier to do to maintain a table with product comparisons, and be able to update collaboratively, right? For project managers, it's easier to do what you call to come up with sprint dashboards, where you have to consolidate Jira sprint reports, track unresolved doc tasks with task macros, do what you call retrospective templates, where you have to use built-in blueprints, assign action items embedded in the page, and then for timeline reports, you can be able to generate date-based progress reports using report macros. Then for budgeting and resource logs, you can be able to track documentation budgets or resource allocations, and burn down via tables. So most of this definitely are features that project managers get to use, or rather can be able to explore when they use Confluence. For technical writers, for technical writers, they can use Confluence as their documentation template, which means they get to standardize API references, user guides, and installation manual formats. Do collaborative drafts, where they have to like allow stakeholders to comment, resolve in context with inline comments, export to PDF or Word, which means they have to like produce customer ready manuals directly from Confluence spaces. And then also we have like glossary page, where they have to maintain centralized definitions and cross-reference via anchor links. So for real world impact, we have Amazon and Spotify. So Amazon was able to cut cross team coordination team time by 20%. leading to faster release cycles. Based on Confluence, they were able to cut cross-team coordination time by 20%, leading to faster release cycles. And Spotify was able to increase, or rather, Spotify increased their internal documentation usage by 50% after standardizing on Confluence templates. Also very, very important. So when it comes to the sample macro usage, we are looking at Jira, Draw.io, Draw ID, and some excerpt here. So Draw.io is basically used for designing, or rather coming up with various kinds of diagrams. It could be design systems or system designs. I believe this is how it looks like. Mine is up the diagrams net, but Draw.io should look like this. So you get to use it to create flowcharts and online diagrams. So you can come up with UMLs, ER diagrams, and even design database schemas. Build like just design anything from it. Myself, I was trying to explore this. I tend to use this. It's called appdiagrams.net, just to come up with various kinds of design structures. Let me see if the it's the same. It's up the diagrams.net. It's the same. So you can be able to do that. Some of the test questions and around Confluence. One is, which macro would you use to embed a Draw.io diagram in Confluence? Which macro would you use to embed a Draw.io diagram in Confluence? And then, how can a PM track OKRs using Confluence gadgets? How can a PM track OKRs using Confluence gadgets? And then describe how a technical writer exports a Confluence space to PDF. I would like Stephanie, are you in a good space to share with us, or just take us through Confluence from a more visual and practical perspective?
The Confluence I'm utilizing is organizational.
Yeah, that's very, yeah.
Yes, it's sensitive information, so I may not be in a best position to share.
Okay.
But let me see if I can try and log in on my own tenant and then can share my screen.
Okay, you right now?
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so as she's doing that, just let me know once you're done. Let's look at static site generators. When it comes to static site generators, we're looking at one of the tools called Dockersaurus. So Dockersaurus is a React-based static site generator which powers docs for React Native, Kubernetes, and Facebook products. Some of the key features of Dockersaurus is the MDX integration. That is basically the GSX in Markdown. And also we have the versioned documentation support. We have the built-in search via Algolia, theming and plugin ecosystem, GitHub pages, and Netlify integration. Some of the use cases of Dockersaurus, especially among software engineers, is the interactive API demos. So it's easy to integrate live code sandboxes using MDX and custom React components. Then when it comes to versioned SDK guides, like host version 1, host version 2, host version 3 docs side by side, it's easy to auto redirect everything based on the version, on the URL version. Then when it comes to theming, it's a little bit easier to customize navigation, sidebars, and layouts via theme components, right? Then we have the CI/CD deployments. When it comes to CI/CD deployments, we're looking at how you can automate site builds on commit using the GitHub Actions, right? Then when it comes to product managers, we're looking at how we can do release rollouts, which means how can we be able to publish new documentations per release, be able to update version dropdown automatically, and also when it comes to analytics integration, how can we be able to embed Google Analytics or Segment to measure page views and popular sections, right? And also when it comes to feedback widgets, like how can you be able to add components for user feedback on doc pages using Dockersaurus? And also there's the aspect of landing pages where you get to create polished marketing pages alongside docs using MDX. So Dockersaurus is also like another cool tool. Though I haven't used Dockersaurus before, but it's been recommended quite a number by a lot of technical writers and even various kinds of managers and engineers. So I would really recommend it too. When it comes to project managers, Dockersaurus helps a lot in contribution guides. When you talk about contribution guides, I mean when it comes to documentation, how you get to contribute towards these kinds of workflow documentations with code snippets and diagrams is very important. And then we have issue tracking links where you have to like link documentation pages to GitHub issues via custom footer. And then we have deployment status where you have to like embed build badges showing site health in the sidebar. Then when it comes to localization, we're looking at how you can be able to manage translations via the I18 plugin and track status per language. So just that aspect of localization is very, very important here. When it comes to technical writers, Dockersaurus helps in creating rich content because when you use MDX, used MDX to include interactive tables, charts, and tutorials. And then when it comes to search optimization, it's easy to configure metadata, sidebars, and tags for discoverability. Then when it comes to PDF generation, you can be able to use community plugins to export docs as PDFs or EPUBs. Then spell check and linting, it's easier to like integrate markdown linters into build pipelines, right? Then down here we have like a real world impact on Dockersaurus. So we have Apollo GraphQL, which saw a 45% increase in doc engagement after migrating to Dockersaurus. Then we have Kubernetes community contributions, which had grew by 30% with better version documentations. So down here we have like a sample configuration of Dockersaurus. So it's just a simple doc configuration, which you can use to, do some configuration on your end. But it looks like it's just a lot of codes, by the way. Yeah, but I would really suggest you look into the actual documentation for Dockersaurus. So some of the questions around here is how do you add a version dropdown in Dockersaurus? Explain how MDX enables custom React components in docs, and which plugin powers Algolia search in Dockersaurus. So these are just some of those posed questions. I would like to confirm if Stephanie is ready. Stephanie, are you good? Hi, Stephanie.
Yes, I can hear you.
Are you good? Are you ready?
No, I'm unable. I'm actually unable to log in completely.
Oh.
I thought I could do it with my personal one, but I'm unable to do it.
Oh, sorry about that. Too bad. Okay, no pressure. Let's proceed. So we've looked at those tools up there. Before I proceed to Sphinx, is there anyone with a question? Robert, are we good?
Yes, we are good.
Okay. Kathy, Stephen, are we somewhere?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, good. Um, Stephen, we are good, right? Stephen. Okay. Let's proceed. Unless Stephen is not with us here. Okay. Let's look at Sphinx. So Sphinx is a Python-based generator powers documentation for Python projects like Django, NumPy, and CPy. Some of the key features of Sphinx is the auto-generated API reference from docstrings.
I'm good.
Oh, sorry, no worries, Steven. Sorry. So Sphinx, I've said Sphinx is a Python-based generator that powers documentation for Python projects like Django, NumPy, and CPy. Some of the key features of Sphinx is one, we have the auto-generated API reference from docstring, multiple output formats like HTML, PDF via LaTeX. Then we have like the extension ecosystem like Autodoc, Napoleon, and Intersphinx. Then we have like the built-in themes where we have like the docs and Alabaster. Then when it comes to internationalization support, still it's supported there on the Sphinx. Some of the use cases of Sphinx amongst software engineers.
Let's see.
Stephanie, are we good?
Yes, we are good.
Okay. Some of the use cases among software engineers. One, we have the API reference, where you can be able to generate function in class documentation via Sphinx, and Napoleon for Google or NumPy style docstrings. Then we have math and equations, where you can be able to render complex formulas using MathJax and LaTeX output. Then when it comes to code examples, you can be able to like integrate Sphinx gallery for runnable examples and galleries. Then when it comes to cross project linking, you can be able to use InterSphinx to reference external project documentations. So those are just some of the use cases of Sphinx under software engineers. Then when it comes to product managers, we're looking at requirements docs where you have to like write REST pages outlining feature requirements alongside code references. Then we also have like release notes where you can be able to compile change logs automatically by passing commit messages. Then we have metrics embedding where you can be able to include images or JSON powered charts. Then we have localization where you can be able to manage translations with GitX catalogs. That is for product managers. For project managers, it's a little bit different. Here we're looking at roadmap sites where you can be able to build static roadmap pages versioned by release. Then when it comes to contributor docs, we're looking at how you can be able to host contributor guides, linting standards, and the CI instructions. For task progress, we're trying to picture out how you can be able to embed task status badges from these CI systems. And when it comes to recovery runbooks, how you can be able to create HTML and PDF runbooks for on-call teams. So that is in regard to project managers. For technical writers, we are looking at structured content where you get to use directives and roles for consistent styling. And when it comes to PDF manuals, we're looking at how you can be able to leverage LaTeX Builder for high quality PDFs. When it comes to theme customization, we're looking at how can you be able to override CSS and templates for branded outputs. And when it comes to spell check and linting, we're looking at how can you integrate this Sphinx contrib spelling in there, just to help you with spell check and grammar and stuff like that. Some of the real world impact. One is we have a company called CPI, which reduced doc maintenance overhead by 30% with Autodoc. Also, we had Read the Docs, which hosts millions of documentations built with Sphinx. So that basically makes it clear how significant they are. Some of the test questions on the Sphinx is one, which extension auto-generates docs from Python doc strings, and how does InterSphinx enable cross-project references? Then describe how to output Sphinx docs as PDF, right? So that is just under Sphinx. Let's look at version control and collaboration hubs, unless someone has a question on the Sphinx. Unless anyone has a question on the Sphinx. Good. Let's look at version control and collaboration hubs. One, we have GitHub. GitHub is basically the tool I'm using. It's the leading platform for version control, social coding, and collaborative documentation. Some of the key features of GitHub: one is Markdown README rendering. Two is pull requests and code reviews. Three is GitHub Actions for CI/CD. Four is issues and projects boards. Then we have Copilot AI Assistant, and lastly we have pages for static sites. Some of the use cases of GitHub, especially for software engineers, is API readmes, where you can be able to like write detailed API usage examples, embed code snippets, and even come up with shielded sections. When it comes to automated docs build, you can be able to run Sphinx or Dockersaurus builds on push and deploy to pages. When it comes to code snippet gist, you can be able to come up with code snippet gist, by the way, on GitHub and embed these gist code blocks in Markdown. Then we have what we call a dependency graph, where you can be able to auto-generate dependency visuals via the dependency graph action. Then we have product managers. Product managers here, we're looking at spec reviews, where you can be able to host PRDs as Markdown files, be able to gather feedback via pull request comments. Then we have feature roadmaps, where you can be able to use projects in beta, boards linked to issues and peers. When it comes to analytics reports, we're looking at how you can be able to commit data snapshots and visualize with GitHub Actions thumbnails. Then we have milestone tracking, where you can be able to like link issues to milestones representing releases. That is in regard to project managers. When it comes to product managers. When it comes to project managers, we're looking at documentation plans, how you can be able to create projects board for doc tasks and set labels like draft, review, or published. Be able to do what you call a release checklist. When I talk about release checklist, I mean maintain a checklist file. But that means you have to like enforce via branch protection. And then team dashboard, where you get to use repo insights to track contribution metrics. Then we have automated reminders, where you can be able to configure actions to ping overdue doc tasks. Then when it comes to technical writers, we're looking at branch-based editing, how you can be able to draft large doc changes in feature branches and peer review, do a peer review via PRs. Then also we have Markdown linters, where you get to like integrate Markdown lint for style enforcement. Then also we have editorial workflows, where you get to use issue templates to collect doc requests. Then we have the wiki pages, where you get to host supplementary guides in the GitHub wikis. So for a real world impact, you realize that TensorFlow's documentations reaches 15 million plus developers monthly via GitHub pages. Then we have Microsoft VS Code extension documentation, which streamlines onboarding by at least 25%. So these are just some of the real world impacts, right? And when it comes to now the test questions here, one is how can you automate documentation deployment with GitHub Actions? I don't know why this question has repeated itself here because I know we had looked into it. The next one, describe using projects boards for doc tasks, and then what role does Copilot play in writing README files? So this is just in regards to GitHub, and I can see most of these questions are either we've explored them or some we are seeing them for the first time. Let's look at GitLab. Sorry. Let's look at GitLab. So first of all, an overview of what GitLab actually is. GitLab is an all-in-one DevOps platform combining version control, CI/CD, and wikis, and then it's used by NASA, Sun, and CMS. Some of the key features of GitLab, one is the integrated CI/CD pipelines, built-in Markdown wikis, merge requests and code reviews, issue boards and milestones. Then we have permissions and project templates. Then again, we have auto DevOps and security scanning. So some of the use cases among, first of all, software engineers, this is in regards to GitLab, is docs CI/CD. So docs CI/CD means you can be able to do pipeline stages that builds things or Docker sites and be able to like run these markdown linters and deploy to the GitHub pages. I'm not so sure if we're together. I feel either I've lost you guys when it comes to the tools. Are we somewhere? Are we good? I don't want to lose anyone out actually. Have I lost anyone? A thumbs up will be great if we are good. Okay. So for software engineers, when it comes to GitLab, we're looking at docs CI/CD. So pipeline stages that builds things or Docker sites, run Markdown linters, and deploy to GitLab pages. Then we have infrastructure as core docs, where you have to embed Terraform docs generation in pipelines, publish HTML reference. Then we have snippet sharing, where you get to use Wiki to centralize reusable shell and Python scripts with annotations. Then we have like the auto-generated API reference, where you get to leverage the Open API generator in CI to produce Swagger UI and host on pages. Then when it comes to product managers, one, we have roadmap wikis, where you get to create project wikis with milestones and embed burn-down charts from the GitLab metrics. Then we have feature specs, where you get to draft specs in wiki and link directly to these merge requests for implementation. Then we do have analytics dashboards, where you get to embed pipeline test coverage and performance graphs in wiki pages. When it comes to stakeholder feedback, we're looking at how you can be able to track comments on issues and wiki pages and then be able to tag teams for inputs. When it comes to project managers, one, we're looking at the board-based planning, where you have to use issue boards to track documentation tasks, automate labels and assignments via triggers. Then we have release checklists, where you have to maintain YAML based checklists in repo and enforce all that via various pipeline rules. When it comes to resource tracking, we're looking at how you can be able to monitor contributor activity and pipeline durations to allocate writing efforts. Then when it comes to risk management, we're looking at how you can be able to document risks in Wiki and auto notify all this via Slack integration. Let's look at technical writers, how significant this is. So when it comes to technical writers, there's what we call the Wiki Style Guide, where you have to host writing guidelines in Project Wiki with templates and approved styles. Then we have versioned content. We have to do a branch and merge wiki pages for major releases. This can be done via history. This view, this view history can be done via Git commits. Sorry. Then we do have PDF experts where you get to use community tools in CI to convert Markdown to PDF for offline distribution. When it comes to localization workflows, we're looking at how you can be able to manage translation branches, automate merges when upstream updates tend to pop up. Some of the real world impact, NASA decided to centralize, or rather, NASA centralized mission docs, and this reduced retrieval time by 40%. Then CMNs cut doc deployment complexity by 50% using the GitLab CI pipelines. So just getting to have these tools in the ecosystem helped them to cut or rather slash down some time and complexity by a given percentage. So that's why this is very, very important here. So that is in regards to GitLab. And this is a sample pipeline and in GitLab from stages where we have lint, build, deploy. Then we have like lint docs, like where we have stage lint, script, markdown lint. Then build docs where we have stage build, script, CD documentation, make HTML. Then artifacts like paths, public, and deploy pages like stage, deploy, script, blah blah blah. So this is just a simple pipeline to do a previsit on. Some test questions. How do you configure GitLab pipeline to build and deploy documentation? Describe using GitLab wikis for hosting style guides. Then what features enable PMs to embed burn-down charts in GitLab wikis? Most of these test questions, in as much as we are assuming them, I will be glad if you try and explore them on your own from a much more practical perspective. So I would like you to take your time out there and review all these tools that we have been able to discuss today. Try and check through these test questions and see whether you can be able to answer them from a more practical perspective. And if possible, document that whole overview that you've been able to experience during your whole exploration out there. Because this, again, as much as you might not be using it on a daily, just being versed with these tools helps a lot when something new pops up and maybe you want to try out, a new methodology or a new framework. So these tools really can come in handy. I would like you to try them out and see how explorative that will look like. Let's look at API documentation powerhouses. And the first one is Swagger or Open API. So an overview bit here is that Swagger or Open API is the de facto standard for REST API specs used by Twilio, Stripe, and Microsoft. Some of the key features of Swagger or Open API is the YAML or JSON specification format. Then we have interactive UIs via Swagger UI and Redoc. Then we do have like the code generation for multiple languages. And we also have middleware integrations like Express and Spring. Then we have versioning and extension support. When it comes to the use cases, we're looking at software engineers. For software engineers, we're looking at specification fast development, where you have to define endpoints in this Open API ML and generate service tabs and client SDKs. Then when it comes to the endpoint testing, you have to use Swagger UI to run these live queries against mock service. And then for the CI validation, you need to be able to integrate the spec linting and contract tests in pipeline. When it comes to version specs, you have to maintain separate spec files per API version and be able to automate redirects in the UI. For product managers, it's good to work with API demonstrations, which means you have to like share interactive Swagger UI links to showcase endpoints to clients, focus on adoption metrics where you have to like integrate analytics to track endpoint usage in the documentations. Then when it comes to stakeholder collaboration, it's good to comment on spec changes via Git and be able to track all this via issues, right? Then when it comes to roadmap alignment, it's good to link specific versions to reduce plans. To reduce plans. For project managers, we're looking at how you can be able to first of all work with this API change logs. So you have to like auto generate change logs by passing specific difference between versions. When it comes to review workflows, you have to like use pull request templates to enforce spec reviews. When it comes to compliance tracking, you have to ensure that the specifications includes required security schemes and documentation. Then on the delivery milestones, you have to like link the spec updates to milestone deadlines. Let's look at the technical writers bit, right? We have the template specs where you have to like create YAML templates for standard crude endpoints. Then we have the embedding examples, which means you have to like include example payloads and response schemas in documentations. For the UI customizations, you have to like style the Swagger UI or use Redoc for branded documentation portals. For export formats, you have to convert specs to HTML or PDF via tools like Windowshins and Shins. So just to guide you through how you can be able to export them in those formats. A real world impact when it comes to Stripe. Stripe uses OpenAPI to handle 1 billion plus daily API calls with consistent developer experience. That's crazy numbers. Um, Stripe using OpenAPI to handle 1 billion plus daily API calls with consistent developer experience is crazy actually. Twilio was able to reduce onboarding friction by 30% through interactive API documentations. Awesome. Any question in regards to Swagger or OpenAPI? The API documentation powerhouses have really been interesting, actually. I mean, looking at them also from a practical perspective. When it comes to the sample specs we have for OpenAPI, the info just this is just a simple but sample specification of OpenAPI or maybe even Swagger just to guide you through. There's some test questions here. One is how do you generate client SDKs? How do you get to generate client SDKs from an OpenAPI spec? Two, which tool renders Swagger UI for an OpenAPI file? Then three, explain how to enforce spec linting in CR. So down here, there's that Swagger official site, which you can also try and explore on your own. So far we've looked at various types of tools, and you can see there have been quite a number here. And before we dive into README, I would like to hear if there's any question, especially in regards to what we have been able to look at. I mean, you can see it's time, that's why I'm trying to take things easy now. So far so good. Is there any questions, or rather, are there any questions based on those tools and even the practicability? Because I believe that is where the work really lies. Just trying to explore them and just being familiar with these tools is very important. Let me get to hear from all of you. So, Robert, based on the tools we've looked at, which ones have you been using and you're familiar with? Okay, seems Robert has left us. Okay, I hope it's his internet or something. Let me get to you, Kathy. Kathy, um, which tool have you been using? Hi, Kathy. Stephen? Hi, Stephen.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Stephen.
So, how does one decide which tool to use
Good
for a
question.
particular project?
Good question. Again, before you decide on thinking about even the tools, you need to understand the capability that you like. I mean, how far do you want to go, right? How far do you want to go with the kind of expectation you have with maybe the project you're doing and stuff like that. So when you're talking about the tool, you need to understand, do you want to, a few things, like, do you want to make it collaborative? Can see someone is trying to join here. Oh, Robert. Hi, Robert. Sorry about your internet, right? Sorry about that. So, Steven, based on the kind of project that you have, I think it narrows down to how you want to go about delivering or rather doing your presentation again. Um, you can't you can't go for something massive when you want to just do a simple and precise presentation. Most of these tools are more or less almost the same, but a few things tend to lie. One is could be like the organization that you work at. Two could be how you like to go about your presentation, maybe, and how far do you want to go about it. So I'm not sure how you would really go about choosing that tool. Let me hear from Stephanie. Stephanie, how do you think is the best approach towards that question? How would you opt to decide on the type of tool you want to work with, especially based on the ones we've looked at?
First, I look at it from a complexity level. So, how big or small is the project? And then, what are you looking into achieving at the very end? So, do you want visuals? I believe Notion has better visuals compared to Confluence. And then, looking at it from how big or small is your team? Are you doing it from an individual level, from a team level? There's also the cost element that needs to be catered for, because if you're dealing with an organization that has more than 1,000 people, I believe also the cost of purchasing some of these platforms is there. But then if you're dealing with a startup, you will be using less cost in purchasing some of these platforms. So that will also be a consideration. Then as well, also, how big is your engineering team? Do you have processes in place? And if this process is in place, I would suggest having Confluence, which helps in giving accessibility to the different spaces that are required even for your projects, for your releases, as well as the BI documentation. And good thing is that you can integrate it with Jira as well as Azure if you're in that space. Yeah. So those are the key considerations.
Thank you, Stephen. How do you see that?
I think I have an idea of how to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, most of these decisions really tend to pan out differently, but most of the time, it's always about the kind of project, majorly the complexity bit of it. The tools that you opt to work with also matter because you need to understand them in detail. You need to know which kind of tools, and that basically means you at least have an experience with them for you to be able to decide on working with them. Yeah. So that's why it's still important to navigate through the tools we've looked at and explore them on your own free time. Try to answer some of those test questions that I have tried to ask and see whether you can look or rather implement them from a more practical angle. Thank you, Steven. Any other question? Can see we have 2 minutes. Okay, we are past our usual time. Any other question? Okay, I can see we are good. Okay. Is there anyone with any feedback, anything to put across before our 2 minutes are over? So now this is just an assignment to go and look at. It's not supposed to be um, a chapter, but go review the tools we've looked at today on your free time. Try to explore them and see. Just get to learn about them in one or another. I know there are tools that you tend to use almost every single day. Stephanie, I bet you use Confluence almost more than any other tool, right?
Yes, Confluence and Azure DevOps for
Okay.
tracking tasks.
For tracking tasks, right?
Yeah.
So you use Confluence for documentation, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay, and Azure for for tracking tasks.
Yes.
Okay, good. What about you, Robert? Robert, are you here with us? Hi, Robert.
Today, hello.
Hello.
Today I'm having a challenge with my internet.
Sorry
Yes.
about that.
Hello.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I'm having challenge with the internet today,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been following up tools that are there. So I'll have to go through these tools and try them, especially the GitHub and also yeah, mostly GitHub because I want to use GitHub as my staging environment. Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful. Nice to hear that. And I'm sorry about your internet. I've seen you struggling today.
So
No worries.
yeah.
No pressure. Great. I wouldn't wish to go any further from here. And with this, I would like to say thank you, everyone, for finding time to be here today. I hope today has been fruitful. Um, I always love these sessions and just getting to interact and learn to every single day means a lot to me. So, with all that, I would like to wish you all a very beautiful night ahead of you, and please take good care of yourselves. Let's meet here tomorrow at the same time, and yeah, let's start at 8 as usual. All the best, everyone, and please take good care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you and good night too.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's been a pleasure.